Hey beautifuls, we are commencing our beautiful crystalline chakra journey. How exciting! This is our crystalline chakra journey for 2021. So welcome, welcome, welcome. The cows want to be here for this live stream this morning. So welcome to the cows. And the cats are starting to make their way out, of course. Of course, why not? All right, let me just grab this and share this, and I shall say hi. Okay, let's have a look here. All right, it's not letting me, just let me share this. Hello. Okay. Cow's pretty loud this morning. How's my hair? Looks full brown on this sunlight reflection. And I'm wanting to cough. All this stuff. So weird, like my mentor did like her frequency machine thing on me. She's like, you got hay fever. And I'm like, I've never had hay fever in my life. And I'm like, actually, the cows I can smell sometimes in my house. Like if they're walking through the paddock and then the wind's blowing everything. It's pretty different. It's pretty different out here. I can feel that in my throat. I'm like, what's happening with my throat? That's so interesting. So I'm curious how you are feeling, because this crown chakra consciousness, it can be pretty potent, pretty strong, pretty like, what's happening? I'm curious how you're feeling, because the crown chakra energy is very, it can be very overwhelming, stressed out, a lot of anger. Like this is very crown chakra energy, because, hang on, just let me see if I've finished sharing that. I'm pretty sure I did. Because the crown chakra is all about letting the light into the crown. Maybe that's why I needed to stand like this in the sun this morning. Let the light in the crown. Yep, headaches. Yep, very head. Obviously the crown chakra is associated with the color purple, and it's at the top of the head, right? It's where the light comes in. It's where the energy comes in. And I've got all my layers on this morning because it's freaking freezing here. So yeah, but now you feel great. Yeah, I feel like there's been a shift. So as I always talk about with the chakra consciousness journey, each week we're in the crown chakra this week, for example, right? However, this week we're also starting to move into the third eye. So as soon as we're in a chakra, the next chakra is also activated. So it's like, so all last week you might have been feeling the anger or the overwhelm or the stressed out. Now, you know, there's kind of a couple of stages to it, in a sense of like some people can be feeling all of that. And then there's people who are just like, this is my new reality. I'm here. I've arrived. Everything's great. There's all this light in my life. Finally, things are moving, right? And there's kind of two stages in a way, because in the sense of, it depends, like, I guess where you're at in your spiritual evolution, where you're in your spiritual journey, like all of that, if that makes sense. And then, you know, I know last week was the eclipse and the full moon, and it was really strong energy, a lot of like diving into, you know, past lives and everything. But we're also already stepping into the crown chakra. So this week we're already stepping into the third eye, because as soon as we're working on a chakra, the next chakra is activated, right? So yeah, I did feel anger and all of that. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Let me just bring up my just the comments on my laptop. Yeah, you always feel amazing in your crown. Yeah, so for those of you who are new here, and this will be the first time that you go through the chakra consciousness journey, let me know, because I'll just go through and explain the chakra journey a little bit. I know I did a little bit last week, but So yeah, just give me some love hearts, or if like, yes, this is my first time for the chakra consciousness journey over these next 9 weeks. And I'll bring up these comments here. For angry on Saturday, just slept it off, feel pretty good. Yeah. So there was a bit of anger. So like kind of Thursday, depending on where you are in the world, Thursday, Friday, the energies were a bit like, yeah, again. And I feel like that's also coming out of like the eclipse energy as well. But it's kind of tying in. It's like, is it eclipse? Is it crown? And I'm like, it's probably both. And I feel like it's, you know, obviously very connected to both in a sense. And because that eclipse last week was really tying off, and I want to say dipping into past life threads, reclaiming your gifts, like remembering who you are. And I feel like, and this is very crown chakra energy as well. Yeah, we're birthing a whole new life, a whole new reality. Yeah, okay, awesome. So I'll explain the chakra consciousness journey because you guys, some of you are fairly new here. So just pull up these comments. All right, this is taking a little bit to load. All right, first time doing the crown. Yes. Yeah, last week was a little bit intense, right? Oh, thanks, Moon. Love listening to me. All right. Okay. So, if this is your first time here for our chakra consciousness journey, so it is the Crystalline Chakra consciousness journey. So for several years now, I think it must be since 2017, I think, that I've done this every year. So every year we go through the chakra consciousness journey, which is 9 weeks. Yeah. So we're in a chakra a week and we delve into a chakra a week. And kind of the purpose of this is to activate your consciousness for each chakra. So yes, each chakra is it's an energy center, and it has a color, and it spins or it opens or it closes, or it has a certain vibration, it has a certain frequency. It also has its own consciousness, right? And it has its own consciousness in a sense of what it relates to in your life, what it activates, the physical organs in your body, what that connects to, how it connects to, like all those pieces, right? And so you know how like you like get a chakra clearing, or you get your chakras opened, or whatever, like, like whatever you do with your chakras, like that is really representing an entire aspect of your life, right? So for the crown chakra, this is like, the crown chakra relates to, so hang on a sec, before we go into the crown, I just need to say that this chakra journey, there's a couple things with this actually. I was getting a lot of messages about it last night. Funny about that. So number one, be mindful each week as we go through what starts happening in your life. So how this kind of works is that things will just start playing out in your reality. Things will just start happening. And if you really trace it back, it all relates to crown chakra or third eye or heart or throat or whatever's going on, right? And so when we look at each week, it's also activating through your physical body. So for example, the crown chakra is very connected to your brain. So as you go through each week, being conscious of just what's happening in your everyday reality, okay? And it's not like you have to like think about it too much or whatever. It's just that if something happens or something goes on, like if you trace it back, you'll be like, oh, this is the heart chakra, for example. As we go through each week, some weeks you'll be like, yeah, I feel good, this is amazing. So it means that you're like, I want to say active, connected, things are open in that particular chakra, things are good, right? And you can always amplify and expand on that. Now, if you're having a really bad week, that chakra might need a little bit more work. So if things happen on the throat chakra week, for example, you might be like, you know, you might have been beheaded in a past life, you might have had your truth cut out of you in the past life, like something like that. There might be some wounding that's needing healing, and that's why that week might feel a little bit harder, because it's just bringing consciousness to that chakra that's been blocked. Not just like, oh, my chakra's closed. It's like, yeah, it's been closed since like eons ago. And so now it's time to like really work on that and open that up so you can speak your truth, so you can live your truth, so you can open your heart. Because I started the chakras from the top, as you probably know, coming down, right? So if the throat is blocked, it's going to block off the rest of your chakras because the energy can't come through your body. When we are born into this reality, most of the time, and naturally, we are supposed to be born through the vagina, through crowning our head. So we enter this world like this, right? We're like crowning through. We're birthing an entire new reality through. So at the crown chakra consciousness, we are literally birthing new ideas. It is like, we're like, oh my God, I'm here. This is why the energy comes down through the crown, right? Our soul comes down into our body, and if there's any blockages, it can't kind of anchor in properly, right? I can't get over how brown my hair looks. Brown or red or something. It's so full on. I haven't had it dyed for a couple of weeks because I was playing around with the ideas of not getting it dyed, just have a rest of the chemicals, even though like people would be like, get the organic one, and I'm like, funny like that. I'm like, just whatever. Just don't really, not too worried about that stuff. So I've had a break, but I'm like, it's so brown. Anyway, getting distracted by the light coming in, right? So we're birthing these new ideas. Now, the reason I said before, if you felt overwhelm, anger, even confusion, right? When we have a spiritual awakening, what happens? Crown opens. That's what happens in a spiritual awakening, right? People, you know, and you've probably seen that post, like supporting a spiritual awakening that I share. Spiritual awakenings aren't all that it's cracked up to be, right? Because when we open our crown, or when it opens, we have a spiritual awakening, all this new light comes into our body. All this, it's really coming in, right? This new light coming in, it brings the truth. Because what is light? It shows you what's going on. It shows you the truth. Light shows you the truth of reality, right? So when the light comes in, we can see clearly, and sometimes we're like, have I really been living in that? Like we wake up. But most of the time when we wake up to the truth, it's not really the nicest thing ever, is it? Like, it's not really, sometimes the truth isn't that. And that's why when we have an awakening or we wake up, what is it? It's like this shock, and it's like, oh my God, have we been living in this? And then it's like anger. It's like, how have I been living in this? And they did this or they did that. And if we look at it on a global scale about the world waking up, people are in shock. Like 2020 was like shock year. And then this year is like people are starting to like be angry, or people pissed off, or why is this happening? And questioning more, and confusion. Hang on a sec, they're saying this and they're saying that and they're saying this. This is not making sense. Yeah, and then there's like anger or betrayal, or, you know, all those feelings, right? So when we look at the spiritual awakening, when we look at a crown chakra opening, that's what's happening, is an awakening, right? We're getting shocked into reality, right? We're like birthing a new reality. You think of a baby birthing, like there's like so many sensations going on, and then when that baby's born, it's like the lights in the room and the air temperature, and hang on a second, to breathe, like what's this really weird feeling, you know, like there's so much going on, right? And then there's people in your face like dangling shit and trying to make you baby goo wow, what the hell was that? Right? So it's just like, oh my God, this is like so overwhelming. Overwhelm, right? Overwhelm is a sign that your brain neural pathways are changing. Overwhelm means that you're learning something new in your reality. So when you remember that you're learning something new, it kind of takes the overwhelm out of the overwhelm, right? Now there has been, and I just saw someone's comment there. So Mira says, I've been feeling good inside myself, more stable, more in tune, but life around me is quite intense, so many energies. Yeah. And so this is where there's like different stages of people kind of waking up. So as I see it, the past kind of 5 years or so, there's been a lot of people waking up and doing the work. Yeah. And then the people I feel that are, I want to say struggling the most, and it's not really the right words, but it kind of is in a way, are the people who, I want to say mainstream people are waking up. That's a way to even describe it, right? Where there's a lot of people like us who have done a lot of work, who are now holding space for the mainstream people who are waking up in a way, right? And there's a little bit of fine lines with all those, words there. So we have lots of realizations at the crown, or we're like, there can be a lot of shock, but it's like, because we allow that light into our body, we're like, oh, I can breathe again, in a way. Yeah, it's like there's been a lot of darkness, and like, oh my God, it's like a breath of fresh air. Like, oh, there's a connection. You feel more connected. Now, the thing that activates with the crown chakra is your heart chakra. As soon as your crown opens, the light automatically pulls into your heart, so to speak. The light automatically activates your heart, because that light from spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, your soul, is automatically the same vibration as your heart. Your heart is automatically the same vibration as your crown, as your soul, as intuition, as source. Like, it is the same frequency. And that's why when we have a spiritual awakening, or we go through a big life change, i.e. we're birthing a new reality, okay? So you could say that the crown chakra slogan, for example, is birthing a new reality, in a way, because as we open, the light comes in, we're able to breathe, because that's the same frequency as our heart. And if you think about all the hurt, the heartbreak and everything, all the trauma, everything that you've been through in your life, that can close off your heart. Therefore it closes down, because you're just like, well, I don't want to open again, right? The crown chakra is associated with the feminine energies, whilst each chakra has both masculine and feminine energies in it both. Each one has more of a kind of a dominance of a feminine or masculine. The crown is definitely feminine. We're opening. Yeah, we're opening to receive the light, the energy, all of those things. Joy says, yes, I can finally breathe. Yes. Yes, lots and lots of realizations. Yeah, JJ says I was born bum first. My mum doesn't let me forget it. Yeah, it's interesting, right? And so, as an example, some people don't really resonate or can't bring the light and energy up through the base chakra. In the, there's a chakra system on the planet, or a consciousness system, let's say, that works with the base chakra up. So some people doesn't work for them. Sometimes the crown works better for them, coming down. Sometimes coming in through the heart works better. What you doing, baby bear? You're such a sookie. So it's really just, as I always say, finding what works for you. It's not like, oh, this is the right way and that's the wrong way. It's like every way has a purpose. Yeah. Okay, so when we look at the crown coming in, that's why when people have a spiritual awakening, it's like, oh, this is amazing. We've got this like pure connection. And then after a little while, everything turns to shit. Why? Because we're like opening up and we're feeling this amazing energy and the light's coming in and we're like, oh my God, this is what I've been searching for my whole life. And then, because when that crown energy comes in, or that whole, it opens the door for your soul to come into your body, you feel full of light, you feel amazing. And anything that is not that light vibration, as I always say, starts to rumble and surface, and then all this old stuff comes up and you're like, oh my God, did this stuff really happen? And the pain and the trauma and all the things, and you're like, and then you feel like you can't stop crying. That is your heart chakra healing, because the light is now in and able to hold space for all that darkness that is being transformed. Crying is not a bad thing, yeah? So as I always say, crying actually releases the stress hormone cortisol from your body. It's really important. Helps to recenter your brain waves, like bring you back to that natural state, that calm state. It is your natural state, by the way. So someone's just asking about crystals. What crystals work with the crown chakra? I say whatever crystal calls to you. That's first and foremost. So if you're getting the message about using a ruby crystal on your crown, and it's like, well, that doesn't make logical sense, and that doesn't make sense for like what everyone in the world says that amethyst is supposed to be for your crown. Yes, amethyst works amazing with your crown, but there are many other crystals that work with your crown chakra, for example. For example, if you're getting the message to use ruby with your crown, it doesn't make sense, right? However, you need to trust your intuition and trust the crystal over what anything outside of you says, what any text, book, video, audio, whatever says, okay? The reason being is because that crystal has holds a certain frequency, as you know, certain healing properties, etc., etc. Now, when you use, say, ruby on your crown chakra, ruby is very connected to the base chakra. Now, the crown, as I said, opens up the heart, it automatically activates the heart and opens the heart. The crown chakra, when you pull that energy in, the crown, when you open your crown, right, through spiritual awakening, through a life change, through anything, you know, that you hit rock bottom or anything like that, the crown chakra is deeply connected to the base chakra. Why? Because they're both at the top and the bottom. They have a direct correlation with each other. Yeah? So the crown chakra and the base chakra are very interconnected. So when you're working with the crown, it might seem like at times that the base chakra is being active. Like, you know, you might be like, oh, well, we're at the crown chakra week, but all this base chakra stuff is going on. Like, what is that about? It's like, yeah, because the crowns are very connected to the base chakra because they're both one in from the top and bottom. And as I said, also the heart. Yeah. So in that aspect, when you say, you know, what crystals work for the crown? Yes, amethyst, and I'm sure there's heaps of others. You know, any sort of purple, sometimes the deep indigo blue, even though they're very connected to the third eye. I mean, like, these guys are very close together. Yeah. So any of those sort of, like, you know, indigo, purple, pink is the ear chakras, magenta pink. So any of those sort of magenta pink colors are all very upper here, upper chakras. So with the ruby, as I was sharing before, you'd think, well, ruby is red, like it's base chakra. It's like, yeah, but when you realize that also the crown chakra is very connected to the base chakra, and ruby is about anchoring your will and being the spiritual warrior in your life. So at the crown chakra, we're literally being the spiritual warrior, like the yoga pose, the warrior, rather than worrying. Yeah, so if you're like obsessively worrying about something, yeah, become the warrior, the spiritual warrior, instead of worrying. Yeah, so being the spiritual warrior means that you are connecting to source. Obsession, addiction means you are disconnected from source. You're disconnected from your consciousness to source. Yeah. So if you are in an obsessive mood, or you're, you know, freaking out about something, you're worrying about something, you have to remember that's your red flag, that you've disconnected from your consciousness to source. How do you reconnect back? You do self-care, meditation, anything that connects you back to your heart, that brings you back to your full centered self. That should be your priority until you feel better. Yeah. So we become the spiritual warrior, and enabling ourselves to stay connected to source, staying connected to our heart, being grounded in our base. That's being willing to follow through on what our intuition that comes through, those thoughts, are guiding us to do. So at the crown chakra, it's our claircognizant spiritual organ. And our claircognizance is where we get those ideas out of the blue. They come in like a flash of light. They come in like a flash of lightning. Our crown chakra is very connected to Archangel Uriel and Archangel Metatron. Archangel Metatron helps us to focus. It's like that laser beam focus. Archangel Metatron is very connected to children, to the children that are labeled ADD, ADHD, all those sort of mental disorders. And as I always say, ADHD, and I love Doreen's perspective of this when she shared it many years ago, attention dialed into a higher dimension. If you have tendencies for ADD, ADHD, and any of those mental disorders, or you know someone that does, children, whatever, okay, it's attention dialed into a higher dimension. They are so connected to source, and they're usually here with it. As I say, not grounded in their body, not able to pull and channel that higher frequency energy into the body through the heart, into the base, and birth their purpose, birth those creative ideas, your claircognizance out of the blue ideas. You might find that those ADD people, or just call them ADD people, are very, very intelligent. They're so switched on, right? They're so switched on. They're usually called crazy or whatever by normal mainstream people, without their ideas that can change the world, right? However, if they're not grounding those ideas through their creative pursuits, that's when they'll become imbalances and they'll get sick through the lower parts of their body, or they'll get conditions in the lower part of their body. And that is because they're living up here, just in the crown chakra, and all the energy's just sitting here. There's like a disconnect from the lower part of the body, right? And so like there can be, you know, physical problems through from like tumors or cysts or constipation or anything like that, because those creative ideas aren't being channeled through. That energy can't get through the rest of the body. Now that might mean they have lots of pain and grief in their heart, and they're not allowed to speak their truth, and so they shut down, and everything they see stays up here, and they're just like, oh my God, I see all this stuff, and like, da, 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 and they're just going crazy, right? That energy needs to be channeled. Painting, watercolor painting, colors, you know, sand tray therapy stuff, getting in the sand, the mud, the dirt, like all of that stuff, like hands-on, like clay, Play-Doh, like painting. You don't have to be an artist. Like get the paper and like colors and just start splotching, like drawing. Like color is amazing for these people, okay? Because, you know, like they're so creative and they're so in tune, like, you know, and it's interesting, right? When we look at drugs and drug addiction, people take drugs so that they can, you know, have that connection, right? Like people who take drugs are looking for that connection. People who take drugs are looking for relief from all the trauma and hurt and all the feelings that are surfacing that they do not know how to handle, right? And so when people take drugs, and different drugs do different things to the body, when people take drugs, it like pushes all those feelings away. And so, you know, like from their body. So in our aura, we have all these feelings and emotions and traumas stuck in our aura, okay? And in our body, but also in our aura. It's the same sort of thing. So whatever, there's different layers of it, okay? And so when people take drugs, it's to get relief from the heaviness, or just like, oh, these feelings are surfacing, especially if they've been triggered by someone in relationship, for example. Crown, heart stuff, seeing what's in a reality. And so new experience, new relationship, new, and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it's like, boom, and all this stuff comes up and they're like, and so then they want to take drugs to like move that stuff away from their body. And it does, it moves it away. And then they feel relief because they're like, ah. And then between here and here is now all this space, for example, right? And so all this space allows all that connection. Is it pure and true and clear? No, that's a whole nother story in itself, right? So as that moves away from the body, there's all this space, and they're like, oh, that's why they see all these amazing things, and they see all this light and color and amazing images and get all these revelations and ideas and stuff. Why? Because all their trauma and stuff is being pushed out of their body, for example. Okay, that's the whole, you know, like I said, different drugs do different things, but at its core concept, this is what's happening. Okay, now then they see all this amazing colors, whatever it is, and they're like, oh, these amazing things. Then they wake up the next morning and the drugs have worn off, for example, and it's like, whew, it's all back to reality. It's heavy. Their connection's cut off. For, you know, in these words, the connection is cut off because all the trauma and stuff is back here. Now it's also back here with fuck knows what got into their system whilst they were open and high. Okay, this is so important, guys. Okay, because people are like, oh, drugs do this and it opens me up. However, when they're open, they're actually not in their body either, because they just pushed all that stuff away. Their soul's like, I'm out of here, because all this space, right? It's like it's the fake high, yeah? And so there's 50,000 things want to come through. So we're pushing this away, right? It's all this space. It comes back. They might feel worse. They might feel ungrounded, like unclearer. What's the word? You're just foggy and stuff, because not only is your own trauma and everything come back, but also what entities or lower energies, or especially if we're in a pub or a club or festival, if we're even allowed to go to those things anymore, but you know what I mean, or party or whatever, you know, and it's like even cloudier, right? And that's why people who do take drugs a lot or whatever can hold a very heavy and dark and dense vibration, because not only is all their own trauma and stuff, but every time they're on it, who knows what comes into their body. So you get entities and takeovers, and that person's just not themselves anymore. Like, yeah, because who knows who's in their body, right? It could be a spirit from the other side. It could be, you know, a demon or whatever. And so there's a whole thing, right? And this is why at the Crown Chakra, right, if you guys might have seen, so the Activate Your Higher Senses is my Crown Chakra consciousness course. And in that course, I go into all the details around, you know, what to do when there's demons, because when we do have a spiritual awakening, we not only just see the other side, or we start sensing things and we get really clear and like all these amazing revelations, right? But also what happens is we start to, you know, all the darkness is there too. And if you're not sure how to handle your spiritual awakening, or, you know, like understand these dark energies, you will get taken over, right? And I'm not saying that as a scare tactic, right? And you have to remember the best form of protection. I'm giving you guys the clue here, or the clue, or the key, whatever. The best form of protection is being grounded in your body. I always say this. If your soul is anchored in your body, there is no room for other entities and shit to get in there. Is there? Okay, so don't go into fear. I'm not saying this to freak you out, but it helps you also understand for people who you see in your reality who are not grounded, who do take drugs all the time, and you're like, wow, they're really not themselves. It's like, yeah, who knows who's in there in a way, right? Okay. There's a lot that I continue to say. Let me check these comments and ask me any questions if you got questions about what I said, because I know I just said a lot. The Crown Chakra is big. The Crown Chakra is big, okay? All right, just let me check these. Hang on. So Moon says, what does it mean when my left ear buzzes really strong? Number one, I'd ask your ear for more information about that and ask the question, you're buzzing, what are you trying to tell me? What is it about that? Yeah. Doreen says, what about rose quartz? Isn't a stone for the heart chakra? Could it be used for the crown because your crown chakra is open, your heart opens? Yes, definitely, exactly. So this is where you trust intuition. You're like, oh, I'm getting that message. I need to put my heart on my crown. Sorry, my heart on my crown. You could. I need to put the rose quartz on my crown because I need that softness and forgiveness as that light comes through. It can be quite strong, and so the rose quartz can filter it through love, even though it's already love, but you know, like it can just help soften it and allow that forgiveness through the crown, which, you know, if you've been angry or something, would be really helpful, right? So always trust that. Yes. Yeah, so a lot of people know a lot of people that got ADD or ADHD or themselves. Yes, so interesting. Drugs make you sick. Yeah, in the beginning it's okay, in the hangover. Yeah, and that's the thing, because when we're on it, it's like, yeah, this is amazing. And then the next day, and I feel like the more sensitive we become, the less tolerant we are of those things. And this is why, because we're enabling ourselves, you know, like I almost said before, that I almost said before, a lot of people have spiritual awakenings when they hit rock bottom through drug taking. And then I pause on that because I'm like, well, that's not actually really true, because people can have a rock bottom hitting any rock bottom. Do you know what I mean? Relationship breakups, or like a huge life change that you didn't see coming. It was just like a smack in the face, and it's like, whoa, no, this way. So it's true and it's not true in a sense. Like, I mean, like, you know, I did, but actually when I look at it, I'm like, it was the heartbreak that actually took me there. It was a relationship breakup, and I was just heavy in drugs at that time as well. The cows, I know. They're all at the gate this morning for some reason. Cows are connected to red jasper. It's nurturing. It's like that mother healing, nurturing. Okay. Incredible information, great ideas, and perspective of ideas. Yes, the crown chakra, all new ideas and perspective. It's interesting. And so what about alcohol? Okay, so, I mean, like I enjoy a glass of wine, or, you know, I don't drink that often, but if I'm going out for dinner or something, I'll have a glass of wine or whatever. Red wine, by the way, it's important. No, so alcohol, so the thing I think with anything is, for me personally, and you know, from this perspective of what we're talking about, as long as you're staying conscious, I feel that that is like the big key piece, right? As long as you're staying conscious. So if you're going to drink alcohol into unconsciousness, who knows going to enter your body. But if you're having a glass or two and you're fully kind of comprehensive and conscious, like that's an entirely different energy space. Does that make sense? And so you could apply that to anything, even though I don't really, you know, I don't like encourage drug use or anything like that. But a lot of people do still take drugs, and it's kind of like, are you unconscious when you're doing it or going into unconsciousness? Like, where's the line and where's the limit? Like, if you're having a few drinks, and like I know for me, I'm like, whoop, that's enough, right? Because I can feel it. And you know, and it's just like being conscious of staying connected to your body, staying connected to your, you know, to yourself with that. So yeah, so Mira says, I cannot handle heavy foods or processed food, and definitely not drugs or alcohol. Yeah, exactly right. And so, and this is the thing, with the cleaner our body is, and the more we do this work, the less we can tolerate those sorts of things in our body, right? Like we feel the effects of them more. So yes, yeah. And Joy says, I don't drink myself, but I heard it's very low vibrational, so it can lower your consciousness. Yeah, kombucha is enough for me. Yeah. So the cows agree. The cows agree. Definitely your body speaks to you for sure. 100%, Nadine. So so if we look at alcohol, for example, alcohol is a poison. And I mean, when we look at any other drug, they're kind of poisons when we look at them, right? So in a way, and I know some people would like differentiate between that, because you know, they'll be like, oh, like, you know, whatever drug, for example, they'll be like, well, I feel better and I feel high on it. It's like, yeah, you come down. And this is where I'm passionate at Reality Awareness to support your spiritual awakening, because I guess for me too, like, I want to say I found it through drugs. I didn't, it was the heartbreak, but I was heavy in drugs at the time, because because I was trying to find that connection, to feel connected to something, right? And when I had my spiritual awakening, the less I took drugs, the more psychic I became. And I was like, I know which path I want to take, right? And that was my motivation for getting off drugs. I'm like, the more I stayed away from it, the more psychic I became. So where was I going with that? The high vibe, right? And this is where I'm passionate, right? And this is where in Trust Intuition, which the doors are open now, early birds open, and only for a couple more days, and then the doors are open. We start on the 5th of July, and we also do this once a year. So in Trust Intuition, we deeply go through the trauma releasing and enabling you to hold that connection and that high vibration without external things, right? And this is where I was saying as well, like the thing that took me off drugs was that I became more psychic the more I stayed away from them. Now, I need to clarify that when I was doing that, I was also in a year-long course that was teaching me pretty much everything I teach in Trust Intuition, right? Because we can try and release any addiction, but if we're not dealing with the traumas that surface from what the addiction was suppressing, then it's not going to work, right? And that's why people go, you know, they're like, I'm quitting, and then they go back and they're quitting, and because they're not dealing with what is covering that, right? Addiction's not bad, it's a support mechanism, but we need to be able to support ourselves in healing the trauma underneath, the pain, whatever it is that you're covering up. And also, again, this is very Crown Chakra, that when we are doing this personal development work, right? And this is where, you know how some people go into psychosis from just smoking weed, smoking marijuana? You can, I want to say like I don't actually know, right? But you could also apply that. Some people go into a form of psychosis with their spiritual awakening because they don't know how to handle the energies and frequencies, which is the ADD, ADHD, right? And this is what we're referring to as very Crown Chakra consciousness. If you're opening on a spiritual awakening level and you do not know how to handle the frequencies, if you do not know what to do with those energy, if you do not know what to do with the dark demon that turns up that wants to overtake you, right? Or somebody else or your client or whatever like that, you need to know what to do with these energies, right? And this is everything I teach in Trust Intuition, which Early Birds open now. Link is in the title of this live stream, or you can find it on my page or send me a message. So Yes, yep. So you have no problem with addiction, but you have a lot of trauma to heal inside. Yeah. And so, you know, and the thing is that when we do release this trauma, we're able to handle situations better because we don't get triggered. Our trauma isn't triggered in those scenarios. And that goes for, you know, any vibration, any food and stuff. And you know how I always refer to like the Buddha, and you can drink the poison and not be affected by it. Well, this is when our body, life, energy, physical vibration holds a certain frequency. We are not affected by it because our traumas are not being triggered, which pulls us back into the lower vibration where we're affected. Does that make sense? It's very, very deep, that one I just dropped into there. Okay, Jen says, what about the studies around enlightenment when you do take something to heighten the different senses? You can hear me over the cows, right? They're really loud. Okay, so Jen says, what about the studies around enlightenment when you do take something to heighten the different senses? I think you're talking about plant medicine, but I know there's other things you can take as well. So I personally have never taken plant medicine. However, I've worked very closely with it, and when my tattoo artist, you know, that middle finger there, she's like, that's actually Aya, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I've never physically taken it, but she came through really strongly through my meditations, through some of them, especially in the full moon ceremony, if you've ever been in a full moon ceremony. So I feel like she works through me, but I haven't actually taken it, for example. Now, when you say, what about studies around enlightenment when you do take something to heighten the different senses? Well, technically I can't really speak on it because I haven't taken it. Have I ever been drawn to it? Yeah, it's called me. Have I ever done it? No. I think personally, just for my own journey, because I hit rock bottom with the high risk drug taking, was very heavy into drugs from 13 to 21. It was, you know, especially from 17 onwards, it was like rave every weekend, like happy hardcore raving, like, you know, pills, ecstasy, the whole thing, like speed, the same thing, pills and ecstasy, but you know, speed, and then it was got into ice and stuff. So I think just because of my experience with drugs, and I know they're not plant medicine, you know, I think I had acid twice in that time, and I hated it. I was just like, no way. And so for me, you know, like that was 2005. I had my spiritual awakening, and by May 2006, that's when I got off everything. And so that was a long time ago for me. And so when plant medicine calls me now, I'm like, I don't want to do that. And you know, and like I said, back in 2005, the thing that took me off drugs was because the more I stayed away from it, the more psychic I became. Now, for me to go and do a plant ceremony, like a plant medicine ceremony, appeals to me, and it doesn't, because I'm like, in my opinion, people do that to clear out trauma and to get really connected to their higher self and receive messages from their higher self. And I'm like, I do that all the time. That is my normal reality. So why would I go and do that? You know, like that's kind of where I've always been with it. And for a couple of years, it really did call me, and I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, so what is this? You know, and I remember seeing one time, you know, someone's post about it, and it was a picture of like, you know, in the shaman tribe, you know, in the village or whatever. And she's, you know, the story was like she was walking back to, you know, where everyone was sitting in circle, and she said it was like, you know, the different realms were like open to her all at the same time, and they were also sitting there, and she could see all the realms or whatever. And I'm like, that's like my normal reality. That's like, that is everyday normal reality for me. Why do I need to go and take that? And after that, that was really, that was kind of where I just let it go. I was just like, oh, if that's what they're experiencing and they're just, you know, doing it to connect to the higher self, I'm like, yeah, and clear out trauma. I'm like, this is what I teach in Trust Intuition. Why would I, you know what I mean? And I'm not ruling out that I'll never do it. Like, I'm not saying that. And, you know, like, it's just never been like, oh, I need to go and do that, you know, because I'm like, this is my everyday reality. So, you know, so it's not that I don't agree with it, do agree with it. I'm always like, trust your intuition. If you're being called to something, trust your intuition. But for me, I definitely would never do it unless I was deep in the jungle of Peru. Like, you know, for example, like if you're going to do something, do it properly, do it the way it's supposed to be, not in a backyard party. That's all I would say to that, in a sense. You know, and the other piece about it, right, this is the most important piece. Again, this is why I teach everything I do at Reality Awareness. This is like what Reality Awareness stands for. It's awakening the consciousness of humanity. Not taking some drug, whether it's recreational, medicinal, or whatever you want, anything, right? It could be anything outside of yourself, right? To enable a higher connection to your spirit, to your soul, to your intuition, to whatever, right? You don't need an outside substance of any kind to have that connection to your soul. This is what Reality Awareness stands for. This is the mission statement for Reality Awareness, is awakening the consciousness of humanity. You don't need an outside substance to have that connection, to move the trauma and hurt and pain away so you can have that clarity of connection, and then for you to need to take that again and again and again and again and again to keep that connection. No. Your natural state is that connection, and everything at Reality Awareness is based around reconnecting you to that without an outside source. Yes, there are meditations that I, you know, share, like that's kind of like the main aspect in a way, right? It's a big part of it, I guess. Because that is teaching you to strengthen. Every time you do one of my meditations, right, whether it's guided still mind or whatever, that is enabling you to strengthen your intuitive muscles, like going to the gym to strengthen your physical muscles, right? The stronger you become, the more you can handle the trauma that surfaces from this lifetime, previous lifetime, generational, like whatever it comes up, right? Future, multi-dimensional, parallel lives, like all of that. It's very ear chakra consciousness, that, right? Multi-dimensional, opening to all the realms, crown chakra, right? You do not need any outside substance for that connection to be enabled, but you do need to strengthen it. You do need to practice it. It is a muscle. It is something that has been suppressed through consciousness for eons, for generations, and that's where the clearing, the work comes in to be able to strengthen that connection, so you can have that, to be able to hold that frequency. That's your natural state. Everybody on this planet is intuitive. Every single person. Why? Because they have a soul, and every soul is their ultimate connection. If a person does not have a soul, they will be dead. Whether that soul is hanging above their body because they're not in it, right? There's still a connection, or they just wouldn't be alive. Yeah? I feel really passionately, strongly about this, yeah? So, I mean, if you're feeling called to explore a plant medicine ceremony, I'm like, trust your intuition over what I say, right? It's just my experience. I'm like, but sometimes people need that to kickstart something, but then they don't go back because it opens something and then they just do it themselves, right? I mean, like I said, like I was heavy into drugs for a long time, but it was the heartbreak that cracked me open, right? To have that spiritual awakening, yeah? All right, so Amanda says, light bulb moment. I go back to smoking cigarettes when I'm feeling unloved because it affects the lungs. Possibly. Yeah, definitely. And smoking gives you, you know, I want to say smoking gives you the connection to feeling connected to something, right? An addiction is a substance that suppresses, but it's also a support mechanism, because in those moments, those feelings are too big and you do not know how to handle them yourself because you've never been taught. Right? Or that it's okay. You're going to get in trouble if you know, feel this emotion, for example. Don't cry, or give you something to cry about it, right? When you're a kid, you get belted more, usually our generation, something like that. And so that cigarette gives you a sense of connection, right? And so when we learn to feel our feelings, we learn how to connect to ourselves. And in that connection, we're able to bring the light in rather than disconnecting it through a substance. Because that true connection, which is why we open the crown, which is what that's about, it's the true connection, not a substance connection, right? That cycles around, and then we're in this cycle and it's like, oh my God, and life's like this friggin', you can't get off the rat race wheel, right? This is a true connection, what's it called? A sustainable connection. And this is what I'm passionate about, teaching you to sustain, as well as being able to support yourself through feelings, all kinds of feelings, even the deepest, darkest things that you don't show anyone and that this covers up, whatever addiction that is, right? When you can know how to support yourself, Crown Chakra is also about support. Now, it's interesting when we look at support, because support is very connected to the base chakra. Support, feeling, so base chakra, feeling safe in your reality. When we don't feel safe, we usually don't have support either. Whether it's emotional, spiritual, mental, whatever, it's a level of support, right? And so when you look at support at the base chakra, crown is also about support, because we're opening up to the spiritual light of support. The spiritual realm of support, that energy source. It's a huge energy source, right? So Mira says, I have problems with my base chakra. Were you the one that said, oh yes, that's what you said, but I have no problem with addiction, but I have a lot of trauma to heal inside. So if you have a problem with your base chakra, it's usually because you're not in your body. And as you said before, you've got a lot of trauma to heal inside, because that trauma just takes up space. If you can imagine your body like an empty vessel, and then you've just got bricks in there that represent the trauma. If you've got trauma in there, all these bricks, there's just no room for your soul to come in, if that makes sense, right? And we can be doing a lot of nature healing or meditations or filling our body with light or bringing, you know, substance in to help us feel. It moves away, the bricks move away, and then it's like, whoa, straight back, right? It's not sustainable. And then we're also healing from the disconnect, and then we're coming back, and then there's confusion, and we're like, what just happened? Like, it's like a whole rebuilding of relationship again. Like, oh, fuck that. Just like keep the relationship there the whole time. And so the base chakra issues would be there because all the trauma was in there. So we can be letting in lots of light, and we're like, oh, it's amazing, and I'm all good, but we're also not grounded. Technically not grounded, yeah, in a way. Not a deep-seated body grounded, yeah. So Mira says you can definitely connect to the energy of Aya without taking it. Yeah. When, you know, I didn't know until she told me afterwards, and I'm like, well, that makes total sense because it's so strong. I don't think it's the 12-strand DNA activation. There's one of them that is like just so, it's in Transcendence, the actual course, the 6-week course that we did. It's literally the manifestation, the crystalline manifestation tree is, yeah. So Joy says, sounds like you're afraid to suppress your abilities trying it. I don't know if it's suppressing my abilities trying it. My main concern is not being connected to myself and allowing whatever in. Like, that's always been my thing. Like, as soon as I learnt that back in 2005, I was like, because of the level of drugs that I've taken, like, especially at that time, it was just like, I was just like, oh my God, like, you know, let alone the holes and the tears in the aura that happen, you know, and especially with marijuana is quite big. It tears open your aura and it just leaves holes in your aura, you know. And so then, you know, even if you're not on it, you're just flapping around with all these holes in your aura, and that just attracts all sorts of low vibrational things, you know. So yeah, for me, I don't know if it's about suppressing my abilities more so than I just don't want any other shit in my body or my aura. I'm like, I'm already clearing out enough here. Like, you know, that's kind of more where my I guess my space or my thing is at with it, my resistance, if you may. Yeah. So Moon says all the markets all around the world are invaded with it. Part of its system programming to keep us sleepy and away from our source. Drugs allow bad entities to control our minds. Yeah, there is a lot of control stuff. I mean, fluoride in the water is a drug, you know, for example. So Tonya says, if you're a chronic pain person and you need narcotics as needed, will that affect your spiritual journey? Number one, I think only things affect you if you're in fear about them and you're really worried about them. If you are a chronic pain person, narcotics or any sort of pain medication is only going to be a band-aid. If you're a chronic pain person, for me, chronic pain is having a bucket load of some sort of hawk thing flies into the tree. Hawk is clear calcite and connected to the universal mind, connected to source. If you're a chronic pain person, chronic pain is a disconnect from your body. Chronic pain is carrying all the generational trauma, is carrying all that stuff. Like, if you're not dealing with that, you're always going to have a, you know, a pain medication. And, you know, and there's a difference between a spiritual journey and just like, oh yeah, I connect with angels, and actually doing the real deep personal development work that clears generational trauma from your body, which is what we do in Trust the Intuition. There's a difference between that. Now, I'm not saying that anything is right or wrong, because sometimes we need to be here connecting with the angels, for example, for quite some time to feel safe enough to go into this deeper stuff, definitely. But, you know, like, I'd be dealing with the chronic pain because, I mean, like, it's a band-aid, and ultimately any drug is going to, like I've just been explaining, takes you through that disconnect from the pain, and then it comes back, so you need more, and then you're trying to like rekindle this relationship that just broke, and then you're wondering why they abandoned you, but it's actually you abandoning yourself. Like, do you know what I mean? It's so deep. So yeah. So Mira says, when you learn to connect, you know how to connect no matter what. Exactly. Yes, need to ground. Yeah, Sarah says, Aya starts working with you before you work with it, and 100% agree, Hannah. Working with it in its traditional setting and with traditional intention is unbelievably important. Yeah, 100%, for sure. Yeah, and I've been told that Aya like has called people for like 4 to 6 years before you've taken it, and that's why I'm not ruling out doing it ever. But at the same time, it's not like, oh, I need to go and do this, you know. And it's like, look at the state of the world at the moment. I'm like, it's really not high on the priority list at all, because I'm like, this is like everyday reality. But anyway, so Mira says, I'm spending so much time in nature. Yes. Yeah, so there's a difference, and it's interesting, right? So this aspect of like opening the crown, and we might have lots of crystals and angel photos and spiritual ornaments around a house, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is like a personal journey I've gone through. I had lots of things around, and the little flags up and all sorts of things, right? All the it's like walking into a spiritual shop. And so with your example, Mira, you know, like, I spend so much time in nature, gardening, walking, but you said here, but maybe I need to really ground deeply, being safe in my body, right? So my example with the spiritual stuff, like, for years I had all that stuff around, right? And it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, I had this massive clean out in my house. I got rid of oracle cards, all my spiritual ornaments, well, majority of them. I think I've got like 2 or 3 main spiritual, like, you know, things or whatever, you know, and just like all this stuff that I was just like, it's just gone. All the Tibetan flags, everything. I was just like, get it out. I'm done. Like, clear it out. And I just put it all on Gumtree, which is kind of like eBay here in Australia. I just put it all for free. And in the space of one day, all these people came and collected it because it was all free. I'm just like, just take it away, people. Instead of selling it, I'm just like, I just want it gone. And my friend said to me, she actually put it out. She's like, oh, it's like you've integrated it now. You don't actually need it there outside of you. And I was like, yeah. That's exactly what that was. I didn't know, but when she pointed it out, I'm like, that's what that is. So it's interesting when you say, you know, I spend so much time in nature, gardening, walking, everything. It's like we need those things outside of us until we know how to do it inside of us without needing that outside thing. So the spiritual thing, the nature, the gardening could also be seen as the substance. Like, it's the same principle. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's not bad, right, wrong. Like, it's not that. It's just that we need those resources until we feel resourced enough. And again, I teach this in Trust Intuition. You can't dive into the deep trauma stuff until you feel safe enough to do so, right? Again, it's this Trust Intuition all over. Doors are open, right? The early bird is open, and we start the 10-week journey diving deep into this stuff on the 5th of July. So yeah, send me a message, or the link is in the top of that. The early bird closes later this week. So it's kind of interesting, right? And so when we look at a spiritual awakening and that amount of light that comes into our body, it's like, you know, it's like it changes our vibration. Yeah, and if we're not ready to change the vibration in our body, we will just have them as outside substances, no matter what that is, whether it's nature or Tibetan flags or whatever, until we're ready to actually deal with the deeper trauma. for example, again, another example is like me moving here to the country when I'm like a mermaid. Yeah. And you might have seen over the past few weeks me sharing about how I've been, you know, craving the ocean, missing it. I'm like, it's my resource. I need to move back, right? I'm done with the country, move me back to the ocean. And then I was like, oh no, I'm hitting this 9-month point. Like I'm just releasing it because it's a 9-month birthing into a whole new energy, right? And then I was like, you know, and I flicked back and forth for about a month over that 9 months, like this past couple of weeks, right? And I was conscious of it, so conscious of it. And then I was like, oh no, I am releasing it. And then I was like, but it's important to my soul. But it's the same thing when I moved to Brisbane many years ago, that I again moved away from the ocean, and I went through a similar thing, but it made me deal with stuff that I'd been suppressing with the ocean, because the ocean was such a resource for me that I had to move away from it to deal with a level of trauma in my body that I just couldn't process, or it didn't surface when I didn't have that resource. So when the addiction is taken away, right, or the resource is taken away, are you able to sustain yourself, right? And this comes back to the Buddha, right? That level of connection to source, which is deeply connected with your crown and opening to receive that level into your body, is like, you know, the Buddha example is that level of vibration doesn't need any outside substance source, nothing but source, right? Nothing in this physical 3D world, whether it's nature or the ocean or anything. I know they're the same thing, but you know, different vibrations, you know, to be able to sustain that connection, right? Your ultimate goal with the crown chakra is sustaining the connection without any outside source, whether it be nature or anything. Hence why a couple of weeks ago when I talked about the shedding on the live stream and talking about 5G and blah, 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 it's like, you know, we should be able to sustain our energy in those environments, right? And this is the biggest piece about transforming darkness to light. This is the biggest piece about being able to hold that vibration no matter what's going on around you. As the lorikeets, which are, if you've seen a rainbow lorikeet, if you're not in Australia, Google rainbow lorikeet Australia and you'll see the bird. It is all the colors of the rainbow, right? And so when we look at transforming darkness to light, it's embracing the entire spectrum of color, the entire spectrum of light. So when we look at that analogy, it's like the crown chakra opens us up to allow that to come in through the third eye, dark blue, through the ears, the pink, through the throat, the light blue, through the heart, the green, through the solar plexus, the yellow, through the sacral, the orange, through the base, the red. And then we integrate it with being full of light. This is the crown chakra consciousness. Yeah? The rainbow lorikeets are speaking directly from spirit. They're like, are you hearing this message? The rainbow, see, they fly it off now. That was the message. That was so important. Oh my God. Okay, where was I up to? That was amazing. The Archangel Raziel, right, is also connected to rainbows. He is the transformer. He is the one who transforms our reality into, like, from the magical, it's like the alchemist, yeah? It's like the ethers into the light, into physical reality. And that's the entire spectrum as we bring the light, the pure source, white light, right, down through our body, through all the colors of the rainbow. And it's so interesting that when I shared about the Crystalline Chakra journey the other day, you might have seen the post for it. I was guided to put the rainbow on the back, and I've never done that before, like bringing the color in, right? I know they were getting louder. Did you guys even hear me? I was trying to talk really loud. Did you guys hear what I was saying? Because, oh my God, that was really loud. Like, that's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Oh my God. So this is what I mean. Like, there's a connection to spirit the entire time. I'm like, I don't need more drugs to amplify that. I'm like, this is normal. This is normal. That's why people do it, right? Oh my goodness, it's so cold. My nose is running. Oh my God. That's amazing. All right, so what about CBD oil? Does that tear your aura? I think it's I want to say a bit gentler. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that. I feel it's more gentler. Is that something that I've been drawn to take? Not really, even though I know it's like apparently highly beneficial, but I got no interest in it. I don't. So yeah, but again, tune into your own intuition about that, because I know some supplements are really good. Like supplements are amazing. Like we're really missing them in a lot of our foods these days, right? But again, do you need the supplements? Oh my God, that's my nose. Do you need the supplements? My nose is the heart. I'm like, what am I crying about? Inner crying. Interesting. Because my heart's being activated with the light, starting to bring out the tears that I need to face. It's kind of interesting. Okay, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked because I'm just trying to figure out what this is for me. I know it's cold, but that's not the excuse. That's not the excuse. Okay, so CBD oil. So like any supplement, right? They're good for a time, and then it's the same thing, right? We might need them for a period of time, but then can you sustain, right? This is where true integration of reality is, right? This is the true integration. So whatever healing property CBD gives you, you might need it for a time, okay? Over a long haul of your lifetime, have you truly integrated what that was giving you? This is like shadow work to the, I want to say to the extreme. This is shadow work in everyday reality about anything, not just a person or a psychological thing. In shadow integration, this is transforming our reality. This is the key, like, I want to say undertone of Buddha, like concept, right? And this is the rainbows. I'm still in amazement of that with the lowercase. But anyway, you know, this is Archangel Raziel's gift of transforming reality. Yeah. And so it's really about integrating that healing property of why you're taking it, right? And this is where, like, this is why, what's it called? Shadow work is not just about the dark, it's about the light. And you can apply it to any supplement, any light aspect of joy or happiness or love. Like, we need to integrate the light and the dark. It's the whole spectrum of the color rainbow, right? It's not just the dark or the light, right? Even though I'm like wearing white, dark, white, dark. I was so conscious when I put that on. I'm like, oh, check out the layers. They're all intermatched of black and white, dark and white. Oh, it's amazing. All right. So Michelle says, yeah, I smoked like I didn't care once Dad died. Now I'm thinking, what am I or have I been doing to myself, not caring and feeling vulnerable, sad and depressed? Yeah, this is a support, you know, I would look at it as a support mechanism of dealing with the grief of your dad passing. I wouldn't be beating up on that at all. And your pony's saying that because it's like, so the horses are very connected to the heart, yeah, and heart healing. Okay. So there's a lot of comments here. Just check which one's coming out. The wind's starting to pick up. So I have a feeling it's just kicked in. Just let me know if it's too windy and I'll move. Okay, so anti-epilepsy medication. Yeah, so Mira, that's a question I'd need to look in the body, so the language, the body book that I've got for epilepsy specifically. So I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I know if I read that, I will get information. Okay. Jurassic Park over here. They were getting louder, I know, right? Yes, if you meditate enough, you don't need CBD. Exactly. That's where I'm coming from with this stuff, guys. Like any supplement, anything that, you know, helps you, relieves pain, does any of that, like, we need it at a time. It's a bit like when I say, you know, like there's a time and place for everything on this planet, or we wouldn't be here experiencing it all. Like, it's a thing, right? And it's like I always say, you know, if I was in a car accident, I would want the ambulance to take me to the damn hospital and inject me with whatever if they're going to save me. Like, maybe no, that's actually not right. Maybe I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? That's the wrong thing of what I'm trying to say, though. Like, I would want them to fix me if I broke my arm, is what I'm saying, not anything else. Oh my God, that was the wrong thing. No, I do not agree to that. But, you know, the medical industry has a purpose, right? If you had a cancerous tumor, you'd want to be getting that removed, like, you know, especially if it's in a bad place or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say, right? So it's not that CBD or anything or weed or whatever, like, is bad. Like, at that moment, it's a support mechanism, and you're integrating something through your soul, through your evolution, through your journey. It is not to be judged. We have to remember that at the Crown Chakra, people can become very, very judgmental, okay? So this is where we see a lot of people have a spiritual awakening, go vegan, and then be really angry at other people who are not vegan because they're not seeing their point of view and their life understanding of their spiritual awakening. Plus, this person's not dealing with the grief that's coming up. They're just projecting that anger onto something else because they don't want to deal with this. Anger and projection and judgment is also an addiction. It's allowing you to avoid your own feelings about what's coming up in your heart. So when we look at, you know, like a judgmental vegan community, and I know not all vegans are judgmental, but I've had my fair share of them. And even energetically, it's a thing you can feel, and oh my God, it's like freaking razor wire or something. Cutthroat to the energy. It's very, very distinct judgmental energy, right? And that's why, you know, you can find some butchers are like the most loving people on the planet because they don't hold that level of judgment. And this is where they say, you know, at the Crown Chakra consciousness, it's really not what you're doing, it's what you're kind of judging. In reality, it's like, where's your heart at? Is your heart, like, you know, open? Is your heart open? Is your crown open, letting you receive that level of light and vibration? Or are you judging and keeping your heart closed because you simply don't want to feel the pain, right? All right. Is there anything else that needs to be shared for the Crown Chakra consciousness? As the lorikeets just fly by one more time, that was freaking powerful. Oh my God, like that transformation of the darkness to light and moving through the colors of the rainbow. Okay, so important. So important. Use these chakra consciousness journeys. I should have said this at the start, but use these chakra consciousness journeys to shift something in your life. So we've got 9 weeks. We do them once a year, and you can use it to transform your life in some way, shape, or form. So you can set an intention at the start today, now, right, of just being aware of what comes up over this next 9 weeks. You can be like, show me what I need to work on, Spirit. Or you can set a distinct intention or something that you want to use the energy of this rainbow to really transform something in your life. It could be a health situation. It could be a consciousness situation. You might want to increase your psychic development. You might want to heal a particular trauma or a situation in your life. You might want to increase your wealth and abundance. You might want to attract that loving relationship. Now, be mindful that whatever you're asking for might bring about all the things that you're not wanting, but you have to understand that it's clearing out what's been blocking you the whole time. So it's not that it's bad, it's just that you've just set an intention that you're willing to work on this stuff. You've just allowed that crown to anchor into your base, which is your action taking place, your willingness to open. Your will is in your base chakra. You're willing to do whatever it takes. You're willing to face whatever comes up from letting the light into your body. Now you have to remember that the crown opening, we're now dropping into the third eye. So you're going to have all these realizations around the light, and you're actually going to see, oh, that's that. And you're going to be showing things in your life. And some past life stuff might come up over the next week because we've opened up that portal of light that comes in that shows you where the light is and where it's not. Yeah? So is there anything else that I need to share about the Crown Chakra or this journey? So Jan says, love listening to you and learning. Yes, thank you. You're so welcome. Okay. I feel like we're good. I feel like there's more, but we do have the rest of the week for the Crown Chakra. So if there is anything else, I will jump on and talk about it. If there's anything in particular that's really coming up. If you've got any questions about anything that you experience on the Crown Chakra journey over any of the weeks, please post in the Reality Awareness support group. We are there for you, and we get it, and we're all going through this together. Trust me, I'll have my weeks. I know I will, because I go through it too. So yeah. So as I've been mentioning, Trust Your Intuition is open, and the early bird closes later this week. This is where we clear out the trauma. I think someone asked the question actually, like, how do we clear out trauma from our body? There's many different resources, healing modalities that specifically work with trauma. I do work with a couple of them, of course, in Trust Intuition. That's the basis of it in a way. Well, of course, being able to trust intuition, but when you're clouded with all these bricks of trauma, like, your intuition is clouded. Like, there's a thing in the way. You're not clear, you're not light, you're heavy, right? And that's why we need all these light things to, like, resource us to be ready. So Trust Intuition is there. Then, yeah, and so with the different trauma releasing techniques, like, there's so many different things on the planet, and that's why it's, like, important to trust your intuition about what's right for you, right? But a lot of people don't know where to start, and this is why Trust Intuition is, so you can trust intuition to be able to go through more with that, right? So there's also the Crystalline Chakra activations. So this is my 9-pack. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it yet. So the Crystalline Chakra activations, if you don't have this, just comment below activations and I'll send you the link. It is $49, and it's a 9 of that chakra activations. So as you go through these next 9 weeks, you can use the chakra activations. So there's one for the crown, there's one for the third eye, there's one for the ears, there's one for the throat, etc., etc. And the chakra activations, they actually, like, you can use them each week, right? And then say, for example, if we're in the heart chakra and you're like, oh my God, I keep getting the message to do the crown again, but you're like, oh, but we're in the heart. Remember to trust your intuition, because something might be needing to reconnect when we're on heart chakra week, that listening to the crown chakra activation will actually activate the heart, and you'll be like, whoa, like this big thing of energy because you've just connected the two or something. Do you know what I mean? So always trust your intuition. But you've got those chakra activations there as well. So there's those there too. And I think Alina just said the inner child meditation. Yes. The inner child meditation can definitely help with that as well. And we definitely work with that in Trust Your Intuition too. And it does release trauma and past life for sure. So Jan says, very heavy with trauma, wish I could meet you. Yes, I'm not sure where in the world you are. Or you're in America by the look of it. I just stalked your profile, and it's, yeah, so we will be having in-person events soon, but otherwise Trust Intuition, we're doing it as a live 10-week journey. So over 10 weeks starting in July, we're going through Trust Intuition over Zoom. So it's like the closest thing we're going to get to in-person at this time. And yeah, that would be something I would definitely recommend, because that's what we're definitely working with here. Oh yes, Joy, thanks for answering that, Jade. So Joy asked about, so you think the liquid crystals are more a natural remedy, I think is what you said. So Jade replied saying, yes, the liquid crystals are natural and holistic and absolutely can be taken long term. They will not interfere with any other treatment you are on, and in fact they work with it. They are vibrational medicine. So yes, thanks for answering that, Jade. I knew I saw more comments there. And I forgot. Yes, in New Mexico. Yeah, so I definitely recommend Trust Intuition then, because that is the 10-week course where we're going through this over Zoom. It will be deep, it will be big, but this is to clear out. And it teaches you these tools for life. Like, I'm a big person of like, yes, I'm an intuitive healer, but I don't heal you. I teach you how to heal yourself so then you can go and heal for the rest of your life without relying on booking in with that healer or booking in with that Reiki master or booking in with that. No, like, this is you gaining the skills and being in the support tribe. Like, the Trust Intuition tribe is priceless, guys. We get it. We get it in there. We are your family, right? Your soul family. We're here. And so this enables, and this is what I said before, the support. If you don't have the support, the trust to feel supported, the safety that is created, people don't heal. That's why they keep society in fear. It's a no-brainer, right? So to heal, we need to feel safe to find the tribe that resonates with you, and there will be in-person events. It's just a matter of timing. But yeah, so we start that in a couple of weeks. So definitely check that out, Jan. I'd recommend. So yes, perfect. Okay. All right. I think we're good for the crown chakra consciousness. So yes, yes. Thanks, Jan. Okay, so I think we're good. I love this tribe. I know I love this tribe, Alita, too. I love that you're in it. And you're in the inner circle, of course. Of course. All right, beautiful. So thank you so much for being here for our crown chakra consciousness journey. This is the first week, and we've got the rest of the week going on. And remember, we'll be starting to step into third eye chakra energy. So just be mindful of that. And I shall see you definitely for third eye chakra week live stream next week. Otherwise, I'm sure there'll be other stuff that comes up the rest of this week, and I shall see you soon. Remember, Trust Intuition early bird closes later this week, so send me a message if you want the details for that, or the link is in the top of the live stream. This is where we heal the deepest trauma so that you can trust your intuition and be able to explore the world, let alone awaken your life purpose. Because if you don't trust intuition, how the fuck are you gonna do that? All right, I love you guys. Mwah, mwah. Yes, go and do the crown chakra activation now. So comment activation below if you don't have that pack. I highly recommend, because you can use them each week as we go through. See you soon. Bye.